What's the timeline of a project as well, from the first site visit here when it was an old batch, going on 7 years, to being here today, seeing the full realisation of the landscaping. Every person who comes through this town passes this building. As I said, it's very public facing, so we were pretty mindful of that, as was the client and its contribution to the place he grew up in.
Kia ora, I'm Tim Merkins. I'm an architect from Toa Architects. I sort of led the documentation and assisted with the delivery of this beautiful whare.
I'm Dane Fazenclude. I was with Toa Architects for a couple of years during the design of this beautiful house, and I was involved as the primarily conceptual designer.
Through the design process, we've been acutely aware of sort of the Māori history of the area, so I know that Ryan, our client, has worked in closely with local iwi. There was a site blessing, the whare has been blessed.
Yeah, we culturally significant headland, the Pa site. We're on the foothills of it. The client was coming back to his hometown, his family's hometown where they grew up, and this was always to be a forever home, not just a holiday house. Toa Architects, we always start with the landscape and the history of an area. We're at the foothills of the headland here, which is it's called Opera Point Headland, but it's also Te Rehutai, which is a very significant Pa site. The clients early on made quite a bold decision to not get vehicles right up to the front door. That's quite a concession, but it meant we could have this beautiful procession of entry. One big concept driver was the context of kauri dams in the Coromandel. It's just built in very remote places to take significant loads. That was a big form generator on this project.
The buttress forms, Kauri Dam, sort of this area where some of the earliest sort of European structures, and you can sort of see there's sort of quite a strong reference to these and the sort of buttress forms and the cedar rain screen, and sort of as we first approached the home here.
So this is the entry point.
We always try and work in typically you're entering a house from below, we always try and work in some double height space or sense of volume at an entry. Don't want to reveal an entire house right on entry, so there's always going to be some level of compression and release in that shading. Another important part of the original brief was not just the client's children, but possibly the client's most important child, which was a young German Shepherd at the time. And they were actually forward-thinking enough to visualise her being a senior dog who might not get upstairs anymore. Actually wanted to work through a lift through the property to get up through the 3 levels, which was easier said than done after we'd gone through a few design iterations to actually go from a terraced form up the hillside to actually get 3 levels overlapping. There was a lot of gymnastics involved to achieve that.
Does it open?
I'm not the tech guy. Exactly.
That's what I think of
And the ideal aspect is actually controlling the solar gain and the heating of the place. So we always knew that deep roof forms, but also having that rich visual interest in the ceilings and the soffits was going to be a huge part of the success of this project.
In the design process, we tried to sort of draw as much on sort of materials that would have been in the area. So I remember sending Ryan link after link of recycled kauri packets for sale, and the truss we designed in reclaimed hardwoods. Unfortunately, they're not as easy to engineer, so it became an engineered timber truss. As you can see, has worked out beautifully, and the large span of this, there is a reference to the timber, the trees, the rako that were sort of in the area, some of the Māori canoe or waka. So this is also symbolic of that. I guess it really does sort of help open up the volume as well of such an expansive roof. You fall in love with the project, and you want to do the best you can for it. So given everything I had to it, but you do that when you fall in love.
We were lucky the client is in the industry, very experienced client, so there was it was always a very constructive relationship. Projects have increasingly become infrastructure driven. It sounds almost the opposite of the beautiful design stuff I think architects do.
A home like this, it becomes a part of your client, and vice versa. They're just such a personal journey, and